I want to welcome you to the Align training today. If you are here for the British Columbia Align Registered Training, you are in the right place. Well, thank you for joining today's training. Our focus today is going to be on Align Access, Self-Reports and Mitigation. My name is Jessica King, and I am a Compliance Program Coordinator here at WECC. And thankfully, I'm not alone and have the support and expertise of Maylee Cook, Megan Naylor, and Julie Blair, our International Relations Manager. I need to read this antitrust policy real quick. All WECC meetings are conducted in accordance with the WECC antitrust policy and the NERC antitrust compliance guidelines. All participants must comply with the policy and guidelines. This meeting is public, so confidential or proprietary information should not be discussed in open session. This webinar is being recorded and will be posted publicly. By participating, you give your consent for your name, voice, image, and likeness to be included in that recording. WECC strives to ensure the information presented today is accurate and reflects the view of WECC. However, all interpretations and positions are subject to change. If you have any questions, please contact WECC's legal counsel. So throughout today's training, if you have any questions, you can send it in the chat, write it in the chat, or use the raise hand feature, and we will get to you. So today's agenda will speak about BC's self-report go live date. We are going to go over the ERO portal, CORS, Align, and Align. We will do a quick system overview, and then we will jump into a live demonstration where we will log in and navigate to the main page. We'll create a finding. We'll show about how to update a finding. We'll respond to requests for information, respond to notifications, as well as how to do mitigating activities. We'll talk about mitigation RFIs, how to resubmit extension requests, completing milestones, and submitting your mitigation for verification. Once we've completed those in the live demo, then we will switch back over to the slides, and we will talk about the secure evidence locker and closing out with some resources that would be useful as you get on this journey of Align, and then we'll close it out with any questions. All right, so let's jump in. So British Columbia registered entities will begin using Align for self-reports as of April 1st, 2025. So stop submitting through WebCDMS on this date, and then you will begin submitting through Align. So existing records will be moved from WebCDMS to Align, but that date is yet to be determined. So until it is, you can continue using WebCDMS. As you have possibly already done or are working on, to have access to Align, you need to have an ERO portal account. Once you have your account, you will request access to Align through My Applications in the ERO portal. Your entity administrator will be notified and then to review and approve pending requests. And we will be mentioning this throughout the presentation, but there are support here for you, and many times it will be you can submit a NERC help desk ticket for that help. All right, so the ERO portal is the key to the kingdom, so to speak. Once you have your ERO portal account, you can request access to Align and CORS. You will notice that there are other applications within the ERO portal, but CORS and Align are mainly what BC will be utilizing. So I do see a question here. How many ERO portal accounts can we have per entity? So that's a good question. And anyone who needs access to any of these applications, so Align or CORS, they will need an ERO portal account. So any individual who needs access to this will need to create an ERO portal account. Does that answer that question?
And I think the other half of that is there isn't a limit, like you're not restricted to 5 or something. So whoever needs one can get one.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you, Amy. And thank you for that question. So there are some roles that will be good to know as you work within Align and the CORS applications. The first of these are contact roles. Contact roles are assigned in CORS and is what feeds Align with its information. These are similar to what you have seen in WebCDMS. We'll just go over those here. So the primary compliance contact, or the PCC, will receive all WECC compliance communications and system-generated emails from the applications of CORS and Align. They will automatically be granted entity administrator, Align registered entity submitter, and SEL submitter permissions. The alternate compliance contact, or the ACC, is the backup to the PCC. So they will be copied on all compliance communication as well and receive system-generated emails from CORS and Align. So the primary compliance officer, or PCO, is something I know BC entities have not really utilized in WebCDMS, but it is available if you want to use it. So the PCO was called authorizing officer in WebCDMS. And typically this is a management level contact responsible for regulatory affairs, so usually the authorized signatory for the organization. And this person is not contacted for system communications from the ERO portal. So in this diagram, it shows the different system roles within the ERO portal and applications. So within the ER portal, there is the role of entity administrator, which is automatically assigned to the PCC. The entity administrator has read and write access to both Align and CORS. So those with an ERO portal account may request access to the two applications, Align and CORS. And then the entity administrator can assign and approve access to the following roles in Align and CORS. So you'll see here that Align has three possible roles, which are Align registered entity reader, entity editor, and entity submitter. And we'll review those permissions shortly. CORS only has one role, and that is the CORS user role. So again, your PCC, or entity administrator, will be able to grant access or permissions for these roles. So once you've been assigned a role, you can commence on performing the work in Align or CORS. So this slide shows some of the features that are available in CORS and would relate to the work that you do. You will notice there are other features that exist for US users in CORS, but the ones listed here are most likely the ones that you will be working out of. The one I would like to draw attention to is the update contact roles. CORS is where you would need to update your contact information, and it does sync with Align nightly. So once you update here in Align, here in CORS, Align will also be updated. So again, a brief summary of CORS. CORS is the source of registration information and entity contact roles. Entity administrator, or PCCs, can update contacts in CORS through the My Entity menu. Again, Align gets registration and contact information from CORS daily, so it is important to keep CORS up to date because this keeps Align up to date. We won't be doing any training specifically on CORS today, but you can find materials on NERC's training in NERC's training library. So as mentioned, there are 3 roles within Align. These roles will be important when you are deciding the access needed for the employees who will be working within Align. So the first role is Align registered entity reader. So this person would be able to log into Align and see everything for the registered entity, but they could not make changes. So this would be simply a view only access. The next one is Align registered entity editor. So this person would be able to log in to Align and see everything for the registered entity and make changes, but they could not submit anything to the CEA for review or processing. So essentially they could edit and save. The last one is Align registered entity submitter. So this person would be able to log in and see everything for the registered entity, make changes, and submit things to the CEA for review or processing. So essentially, this person would have edit, but also save and action abilities. So now with our understanding of the different roles, what kind of work is done within Align? For today's training, we are focusing on the first column, but Align does encompass all the work that we would perform for our entities. So the first column is self-reports, mitigation management, enforcement processing. So some things within there could be create findings, you could add mitigation milestones, respond to requests for information, self-certifications, periodic data submittals. Some actions in there would be to submit responses to requests, respond to RFIs. Similarly, submit requests for extension, create attestations, reaffirm attestations, and then finally audits and spot checks. So you would be able to view those scheduled engagements. You'd be able to respond to working papers, respond to RFIs, or to object to team members. So an important question we may need to ask when we are going about our work is, do I have the appropriate permissions? So we've created this little flow chart to kind of help the process of knowing or finding out. So if you do know that you have the correct permissions, then you would go to the left here on this diagram, and from there you would need to submit a NERC ticket to be able to get that fixed. If you don't have the correct permissions or you are not sure, then you would go to the right on this diagram, and then you would need to contact your PCC. Through there, if you do have the correct permissions, then you guys can submit a NERC ticket. All right, to summarize what Align is. So Align integrates compliance and enforcement activities into a single platform for all regions and NERC. It harmonizes processes using a single language. It tracks data in one tool, making it the ERO's system of record. The tool has already been adopted in the US and several Canadian provinces, but some features like the coordinated oversight or self-logs are not applicable to BC entities. NERC is the system administrator for Align and related tools, and WECC partners with NERC to maintain and support those tools. You may interact with representatives from WECC and NERC for technical support, but that as far as NERC's support goes. NERC is not involved in carrying out WECC's activities as the BCUC's administrator for the Mandatory Reliability Standards Program. As we get into Align, you will see some terminology differences, and we wanted to highlight 3 terms for you that you might see throughout Align. The first is finding. So this can mean a self-report or an audit finding. It's a generic term used to refer to a non-compliance. The next one is CEA, and this is a generic term for the regions, and in our case, it means WECC. And then lastly, the P&C. You are used to seeing possible violation, and Align uses potential non-compliance. There is a full terminology sheet available on WECC's website, and we will have for reference here in the slides. So navigating the system. When you log in, you will land at the My Align page or the dashboard. When you click on the My Align page, it will have a selection of the different Align features. One second, I see that we do have a question. What do we do when PCCs have left the company without any transfer of responsibilities, i.e. PCC no longer available to give permissions? That is a good question, and that is something that has happened before. And I may have Maylee help me on this as well, but I do know that we try to encourage as much as possible to try to get those updates or to have more contacts within there so that you won't be stuck in that situation. So if you do know about this in advance, it is good to try to get that into cores before any change happens. But if it doesn't happen, And this is where this is, maybe I need a little help here, maybe.
Yeah, you've got a couple options. So should you really get stuck and not have someone with the entity admin role in CORS, that would be a NERC ticket. Get that support ticket in and get help. But the PCC does not need to be your only entity administrator in CORS. You can designate a second, or I don't know if there's a limitation, but I know you can at least designate a second entity admin. So that while that right is given automatically to the PCC, you can assign your alternate to have that as well. And then you've got someone who has that permission giving role within CORS. So yeah, if you're in that position already, it looks like we have a follow-up. I would start with that NERC support ticket, support.nerc.net. We'll make sure you have the information and resource, but it would be a ticket to get that role transferred.
So once you log into the system, when you click on the My Align, it will have a drop down and it has all the different views that are available. To the right here is the view system news and updates. So if there are any system updates, you'll see it here. And then in this My Tasks area, this is where items awaiting your action will appear. So some nuances of the Align system. There are some nuances of the Align system, so we want to mention them here. Once you are in a view, you can filter using the column headers, but it will reset each time you exit and enter the view. There are at times delays in your actions showing up, so you can use the refresh button at the bottom of the page to refresh, and your action will show up. When you are submitting a form in Align, it will let you know if there is an issue. Hover over the red triangle to see a description of the rule that can help you correct the error. Required fields cannot be left blank. And sometimes you will need to scroll to the top of the screen to see the validation error. Another nuance you may see when submitting is a no flow evaluates to true. This happens when the Save an Action button is clicked and the form cannot complete the action. This means you did not select Submit from the action dropdown before you clicked Save an Action. For more information around this topic, you can access the videos again about validation rules in NERC's training library. So the purpose of today's live demo is about gaining familiarity with Align. So we will focus on system functionality and won't have time to go in depth with user process, but any questions you may have, you may be sent to your assigned enforcement attorney or to enforcement@wec.org. And we are excited to show you this new system. So I would like to mention as well that for today's demonstration, we are using a test entity. This entity has an NCR instead of a WCR, but the process we walk through will be identical. Another minor difference is that the standard requirements you use in Align will be indicated by BC in parentheses. So with that, I am going to stop sharing my screen and pull up the test environment. So give me 1 second. All right, I am just logging in. We'll click on Align for Entities. And then when you log in, you do come to the My Align dashboard and tasks. And again, when you click on this My Align, you will see all the available views. There are views in here that are only the US applicable, but the ones that we will be going over today are the Self-Reports and Logs view, the Enforcement Processing view, the Mitigation Management view, and the Request for Information view. So again, this is where your news and updates, system news and updates are. And then we have here the My Task. And as you can see, we already have some outstanding action items from some other tests that we did. So the first thing we are going to walk through is the Self-Reports and Logs view, and we will create a finding and submit to WECC. So I'm going to go to the My Align, Self-Reports and Logs. And as you can see here, this page is still loading. The training system does take a little bit longer to load, but we can use this time for a little self-meditation and breathing practice. This is something that you'll notice as you work through Align, that there might be some loading times. So it is a good practice to exercise a little patience. But while that is loading, you can see up here that this has our test entity. So your name would be here, your entity name, and we have the create finding. So once it completes loading, then we will continue on. Maybe. There we go. So this is your My Draft section. So once we create some self-report, it would show up in your My Drafts. So for now, we are going to create a finding. So I'm going to click on Create Finding. Again, this may take a few seconds to pull up. If you would find your standard that you would like to create a finding, I'll just use this one, and I'm going to click the plus sign. So you can enter the information right now, or you can save right away. I am going to save right away, and you'll see that when you do that, it does kick you out of the screen, and then we are going to refresh the page.
Jess, it's the wheel at the bottom.
Oh, this one. Here we go.
You'll notice each of those panels on your screen will have their own controls there.
And it is loading.
There it goes.
Got it. So you'll see here that it does populate here. I am just going to note so I don't forget the unique ID for our newly created self-report. So once it's in here, we do still need to fill out the information. So we'll click back in here. And we will just start filling things out. So we will need to do when was the potential non-compliance discovered, and we'll say that it was discovered yesterday. And when did it start? We'll say that it started on the 3rd. So you'll notice too that all of these boxes or drop downs, they have this little asterisk or star. Those are required fields. So I will need to put something in there for it to actually be able to complete or save at the end. So I'm just going to fill this out real quick. And then we're down here to the mitigation information. If you click on here, if you are ready and are able and you have to do mitigation milestones, you can do it right now. But a lot of times we're not. And so I won't be doing that right now. I'll be doing that later through the mitigation management view, which I'll show you in just a few. But I wanted to show you that option here. And then also you'll notice that there is this SCL reference number. If you do have evidence that you want to submit as well, that does need to be uploaded to the secure evidence locker, which we will cover later. So once you have finished, then you will need to use this action dropdown, and you're going to need to select submit. And then
Hey, Jessica.
Yeah.
We've gotten a question about reporting out this data. And I just wanted to, if you'll scroll just a teeny bit more
up
down.
or down?
Down, right there. Right now, the reporting functions of Align are not super useful on your end as an entity, but you do have the option at this stage to click that print button and create a record of this self-report for yourself. And you'll see that same feature throughout. So that is the main way you will be able to get data out of Align at this stage. But if you have a situation and that's not working for you, do reach out to us about those specifics, and we may be able to find another workaround for you. Thanks for letting me interrupt, Jessica. Go ahead.
No, thank you. And thank you for the questions. Oops. So now that I've selected submit, I am going to push the save in action. And I just wanted to point this out again. So if you do not see a save in action button, this could mean you only have editor role permissions. And if you do need to have submitter permissions, then that would be an indicator to you that you either need to contact your entity administrator or that you guys would need to submit to NERC for a ticket. So I'm going to save in action. So action succeeded. So now it is in WECC review. So while in WECC review, you may have an update to your finding that you might not have known at the time of your submission. If that is the case, you can go to the enforcement processing view, which we'll go there now, and then locate your finding.
Jessica, when this opens and you've got that finding update, we have a question about the root cause and risk. So if you'll go ahead and open that, we can just go look at that part of the screen. Your normal update for the plus sign there, yeah.
So if you do want to update it's right here on the send update column. You'll just click the plus sign. And you'll notice that nothing is in here that was entered into my original self-report. But you will be able to enter in whatever update that you need in whatever box that is applicable. You can see here the only required one is here for this summary of finding update.
Yeah, if you'll go to the extent of condition and root cause and risk, and we have questions about what you're able to report here. Here, you just need to provide the explanations as in these fields. And there was a question about a drop down to the new enforcement root causes. That one is a great question for your enforcement contact. I'm not sure how those are being incorporated into Align. So you'll want to take that back. But there was also a note about there being a difference between what they're seeing online and what they're seeing here in the environment. And there is occasionally a disconnect. Usually the system is more up to date than the documentation, but in this case, I am not 100% sure about the exact order on that. But definitely check with your enforcement contact about those root cause situations. That would be a great question for them. All right. Thanks, Jessica.
Thank you. So with that, I'm going to click update. Okay. So at this stage of WECC review, they may have some questions, in which case they will send a request for information or RFI. When you get an RFI, the PCC and ACC at your entity will get an email notification. There are two ways to access your RFIs, through My Tasks or through the request for information in the drop-down menu. So if we come up here to our drop down. I'm just going to click in here real quick. This is the request for information view. You can use any of these drop downs to filter to your RFI. So this is one way. And then I'm going to go back to the My Align dashboard into My Tasks. And again, here as well, you can filter on the unique ID or the type. I do know that it is on the second page. So we will be using this one right here since I've already sent it. So you can see here it says RFI for finding. It would have the unique ID and the RFI number here. And it says awaiting your response. So I'm going to click into this. When I open the RFI, you'll see all of WECC's instructions on this left side. And if there are any attachments or documents, you will see that here. You will provide your responses in the comment box here in the respondent comments box to the right. If you do have any evidence or things that you would like to upload to the SEL, that is when you would click this upload to SEL box. So I am going to say uploaded to SEL. And I'm going to click the box. And again, here is the SEL reference number. And then I am going to select Save and Action. You can, as you can see, there is that save option as well. So if you do just want to save a draft for now, you do have that option. So we have now responded to that RFI. So once WECC has determined the appropriate disposition of this finding, that information will be updated in Align and a notification will be sent to the PCC and ACC at your entity. So depending on which disposition type will determine what response WECC needs from you, and instructions will be included in the disposition. So disposition types could be a compliance exception, a find, fix, track, or a dismissal, to name a few. There are a couple ways to locate the notifications from WECC. The first way that we'll mention since we are here is in this My Tasks. You can see here that this one right here is a find, fix, track letter. So you would just click on here and it would go into the notice. The second way is, and that's the way I'm going to show you, is if you click into enforcement processing. I wish I had some music to play for you. Oh, here we go. And you'll see here the self-report that we did, but also I'm going to be using this one. I've attached the notice letter in this one. So once you find your unique ID, you're going to click on that. And then you're going to scroll down into this notifications section. So whichever way you access it, the notification looks the same. So I'm going to click into this. So on the left, again, is any WECC comments, and then we would attach the letter here, and you can see I can click it and download it. If there is a response required, you would fill that out on the right side of the form here in respondents' comments. You will see that there is a place to attach a document here. This is one of the few places where you can upload a document to Align. And if WECC has requested you return a document, you could do that here. This function should only be used for an enforcement process request from WECC. So I'm just going to say Done. And I'm going to do save and action. So once we have done that, we have responded to that notice letter. So the next step we're going to talk about in this self-report process is mitigation activities. So mitigation runs parallel to all the other enforcement activities in a line. As we mentioned, when creating the finding, you could have entered your mitigation milestones there or later through the mitigation management view. So I'm going to do that right now. I'm going to go to the mitigation management view. So as you can see, I clicked and did a descending so that I could get the latest one that we created to come up to the top. As you can see in this view, though, there are different tabs up top here. Each of these tabs shows the status in which the mitigation is in. And for the self-report that we just created, it is in the My Draft Mitigations tab. So now that I have found my self-report, I am going to click on the unique ID. And I am going to scroll to the mitigation milestone section right here. To add a milestone, I need to click the plus sign. This opens up the pop-up window. From here, you can select what type of milestone. You can put a description, and then you are required to put a planned completion date. So, type of milestone, we'll say a preventive control. I'm not going to enter a description, and we'll say planned completion date. Today. And then I'm going to select update. Once you fill out the form and click update, this creates the milestone, but does not save it. You can create as many milestones as you need to represent your mitigation. Once all milestones are entered and the form is complete, be sure to save once you're back at this parent mitigation form. Otherwise, you will lose your data. So I am just going to save. And as you can see, it does pop you out of the form. And so for us to go in and submit those mitigation milestones, we'll need to click back into the form. And you can see here, it has a milestone ID. And now we are going to submit for CEA review. And now I'm going to put save in action, and this will send it to WECC. If you do not select an action from the drop-down before hitting the save in action button, you will get an error. So mitigation activities are the default in a line. This allows for full tracking of your mitigation, but gives a little more flexibility with timing. Mitigation plans will still be used for select cases, and if that happens, the mitigation plan will be initiated by WECC, and it reverts back to draft mitigation. So once this is loaded, we'll show you a few things here on this My Drafts Mitigation page. I wanted to point out a few things here on this main page. You can see here that there are some yellow triangles within the type mitigation type here, mitigation plan. If you hover over the yellow triangle, it says it has been converted. Oh, well, normally it will say it has been converted to a mitigation plan and please resubmit. Let's see here, right here, this one does, converted to mitigation plan. Please resubmit as a mitigation plan. So again, WECC will initiate this. If it needs to be turned into a mitigation plan, it will be initiated by WECC, and then it will come into your My Drafts here with a yellow triangle, just like this. Mitigation plans and mitigating activities are the same basic form, so it will feel familiar to complete. As a note, in the US, a mitigation plan adds additional NERC review per NERC's rules of procedure, but that is not the case for BC entities. So WECC may also ask you to update your mitigating activities if more details are needed. You will get an email notification if this is the case, and you will also see in this mitigating activities, the mitigating activities may appear on your My Task list on the dashboard with a status of resubmit. You can also see it on your mitigation management view here with a yellow triangle icon that shows the CEA is asking for resubmittal. So here, this one says type mitigating activities. And if you hover over that, it just says, please make revisions and resubmit. So during mitigation review, WECC may send RFIs. The form is identical to the RFI form used for the P&Cs and that we went over, except that Align will mark this as an RFI for mitigation rather than an RFI for a finding. So you would find them just as we did earlier through the request for information view or on My Tasks. So another possible action you may want to take is requesting an extension of one of your milestones. If you do need additional time on a mitigation milestone of an active mitigation plan, you can go to My Active Mitigations. So you'll select, but do not open the mitigation record for your unique ID. And then this will filter the related milestones window to display all milestones for the mitigating activities or plan. So if you notice here, if I just click here, you'll see down here that all the milestones that we just created are down here. I'll just click through a few of these. Same, you're seeing all of their mitigation milestones. So I'm going to go back up to the one that we've been working on. Clicked on here, and if you do want an extension request, right here in this column, request extension, you'll click the plus sign. The pop-up window will open. You'll say 19th, need more time. Update. And that is how you would request an extension. So once you have completed all of your milestones, you will need to enter the actual completion date in the record. You will access the record just as we have walked through by going to the mitigation management and locating the unique ID on My Active Mitigations tab. So we are already here. We are in My Active Mitigations. I have found my unique ID. I'm going to click in here. Now I'm going to scroll down to the mitigation milestones. I'm going to click on the ID. And right here you can see it has the actual completion date. So I am going to say that the actual completion date was the 18th. And I'm going to push save. So again, it just saved it there. You would have to save again here. But I'm going to try and just do the save in action, just in case we have some more loading wait times. So you can save, and this will kick you out again. You would have to come back in. So to get to, if you are, let's say you have more milestones here, you do the same actions for each one to complete and put that date in for each one. And once they are all complete and the record is ready to submit for verification, for CEA verification, This is the final part of your mitigation flow, is to let WECC know that your mitigation is ready for CEA verification. So in Align, your mitigation has to be active before you can submit your mitigation for verification. This is a change from Web CDMS. So we are already into our form, and I'm just going to scroll down here to this action dropdown, and it says submit for CEA verification. I am going to select that, and then I am going to select save and action. So a few notes for submitting for CEA verification: just make sure that all milestones are complete before submitting, because Align will not let you submit, will let you submit even if they are not complete. So if that does happen, WECC will have to send it back. So the last thing I would like to show you is concerning consolidated P&Cs and what those look like. In Align, 2 findings can be consolidated into the enforcement action record, which can behave like a folder. This is what I'm going to go to the enforcement processing and show you what a consolidated P&C will look like. So you'll see here, this one has a parentheses with consolidation here. If you hover over it, it does show you which ones have been consolidated into this unique ID. So I can see that 2024-0056 and 00060 have been consolidated into this unique ID. This does have some implications for the mitigation records associated with these consolidated findings. So I am going to go back to mitigation management to show you that. The mitigation records do not have a similar folder structure, so the consolidated mitigation may need additional review to make sure all relevant activities are included in the active record. And so that active record would be in the My Active Mitigations tab here. You can access the record for the consolidated P&C under the Consolidated Mitigations tab right here. So you'll see when we click in here that we'll see the consolidated P&C, which was the record 00060. The mitigation for the parent P&C/EA will still be active under the appropriate mitigation tab for its status. So like I said, you'll still be able to find the 00056 here on this view right here. If the mitigation needs to be updated to include the activities of the consolidated P&C, WECC will send it back to you as a draft, and you can reference the archived record as shown here in this Consolidated Mitigations tab. If this happens, you will receive instructions from WECC on what is needed, and you can always refer to NERC's video about consolidated mitigation. So that wraps up what we wanted to cover on the live demo today. But before we finish for the day, we want to talk about the secure evidence logger. So I'm going to stop sharing and switch back to the PowerPoint. So just give me 1 second. All right, so the security strategy for NERC's secure evidence locker has a layered defense posture that includes access control, multiple levels of encryption, system isolation, and continuous monitoring. There is no direct connection between the SEL and Align, but you'll use the reference IDs from Align when you upload your evidence to the SEL. Entity access to the SEL is limited to the upload form, which ties back to the security posture of only giving the minimum access needed to every user. The SEL user guide includes instructions and the URL for logging into the SEL. You will need a NERC ERO portal user account to use this. So with the reference ID from Align, you will navigate to NERC's SEL portal. The form should look like this, the number 1. You will paste the reference ID in the field and click Validate. You should receive a valid reference ID box. Once that appears, you can start uploading files. You can upload multiple files in one session. The individual file size limit is 100 MB and 10 GB for multiple file upload sessions. So if you receive an error message when uploading, just check these things and try again. If you continue to have problems, please reach out to us and we will work with you to figure out the error. The last thing on the SEL portal is that you will receive a manifest after you upload your documents. So please keep this manifest as your record of upload. You will not receive anything else to know what you have uploaded, and this will be your record. We also ask that you notify WECC when you upload responses to the SEL because we are not notified. So again, to summarize a little bit about the Secure Evidence Locker, those manifests confirm successful upload. Some file types are not accepted by the SEL. This includes zip or compressed files and executable files. And the SEL hours are 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern Time. So we wanted to remind you of the many resources available to you for your continued learning of Align. The videos, user guides, and training environment are still available for you to use, for you to revisit any topics or areas as needed. In addition to Align, the NERC training site also includes training materials for cores and other NERC applications. So a lot of these links do relate to the things that we have talked about today. And more links to these resources. And always know that we are a resource for you as well. So don't hesitate to reach out, and we will do everything we can to help answer your questions. I just want to thank you so much for joining our Align training today. So please let us know if you or your entity need any help to be ready for the Align. We know that we are learning a new system, which is very true. There are growth pains still within the system, but we are committed to everyone's success. So again, please don't hesitate to reach out with questions or concerns. And that wraps up the prepared portion of the training. And if there are any questions at this time, please feel free to write those out, and we can try our best to answer those right now. Well, thank you again to everybody, and you have a good rest of your day. And again, don't hesitate to reach out.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.